When I was 18, I fell in love with my high school sweetheart, Carl, and we were happy as can be. And at 19, I had a surprise pregnancy and gave birth to twin boys, Christian and Bart. And we were a happy family for a while. But me and Carl always seemed to start fighting about something. We always seemed to try and pick a fight, and we were never really happy with each other. In fact, we were absolutely sad. We were absolutely depressed with each other. We eventually decided we wanted completely different things. One being that we wanted to live on separate sides of the West Coast. Him moving down to LA and me up to Seattle. We didn't want to get the courts involved. We hadn't gotten married, and there was no reason to go through all the trouble. Eventually, it was time to move, and we had figured out a plan that we thought would really work. And we decided that it would. So what we had planned was I would move up to Seattle, and I'd go make a life for me and one son, Christian, up there. And that he had decided to move down to the Hollywood, LA area and take the other twin, Bart, with him, and that he would go and make a life with him, and that they would live happily together. I trusted him to take care of my son, and I trusted him to put him on the path towards greatness. And I knew that although Carl wasn't the best figure, he would step up and be a good father. Although I was young, I spared no expense on my son's education, and Christian was sure to go to the best schools I could possibly get him into, and he would eventually love to go to school, and he would love to learn and be in school and be a student. And I was happy that I had raised a son at such a young age to be that way. I also made sure that he always had health care. I didn't care if I was young, I wanted him to be healthy. He was one of the smartest kids in his class early on. Everyone in preschool knew that he had picked up the English and the math one of the fastest ways, one of the quickest in his class. I knew he was destined for greatness, and I was sure to help him get on his way. Bart, on the other hand, from what I heard from Carl when we spoke on occasion, was that Bart could sit in front of the TV and he didn't really care. It wasn't he didn't care about the education, and that he would be just fine without preschool. He didn't really need it. I also always heard from him whenever Bart was sick. Bart could have any type of illness, and Carl would always end up, without a doubt, calling me up asking me for help, which I would gladly give, because although I didn't live with Bart, I was sure to take care of him. I also heard from neighbors that although Carl said he would keep Bart in school, that Bart was spending more time in the alleyways with gangs than he was in school, and it really broke my heart, but I knew he could turn it around. Christian, on the other hand, was one of the top in his class, always knew the answers, spent countless hours studying on Friday nights, Saturday nights, and such. He even made time to be sure to help tutor kids in his class that needed the extra help. He had straight A's all through high school, and AP classes every place he could. He ended his high school career with a 5.0, valedictorian of his class, and his speech was absolutely amazing. It made me so proud to be his mother. He was accepted into a variety of schools: Berkeley, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Columbia, Duke, and all of them were, every letter that came, he was accepted. And eventually he decided that he was going to go to the one and only Harvard. And I was happy. I called Carl to ask about Bart's graduation and how he did in his class. And Carl told me the sad news that would break my heart even worse than it did before. Ever since Bart was 14, apparently he had been dealing drugs and not really going to school. He had also been suspected in various amounts of cases that the police were searching for, and this was exactly what they needed to get Bart into the jail. He had apparently been on the rough side of the tracks for a while now, and this was their way to get him in. And it was their way of getting him into the jail. Now that he was 18, he was being moved from juvenile detention to the state penitentiary. He was being held without bail, and I was so concerned. I didn't know what to do. 7 years later, Christian told me he was flying out to Sacramento to finish after he passed his bar test to do more studying with Congress and other such things. Bart was now in jail and waiting for his trial date for arson and murder. I couldn't get myself to keep in touch, and every time Carl tried to call me and ask me for something, I would ignore the phone. I couldn't do it anymore. Christian called me one day just to talk. In fact, it wasn't. For me, I thought it was just a talk, but in fact it wasn't. He apparently had some big news about his first trial that he had gone to in the LA area, and I couldn't wait to hear about it. He told me he was studying up on this guy and that he had been arrested for arson and murder with various drug possessions and drug dealings in the past. As he walked in, he was sure to find some nasty looking criminal, and that he was excited to be defending someone who really needed his help. But he never expected what he saw. When he got to that window, he realized that while he was sitting there in a suit, it was like he was looking into a mirror where his clothes had changed, and he now had tattoos. Him, with his cut, neat hair, his tie, and his suit, looked into the mirror to see himself in an orange jumpsuit, hair all ratted, and tattoos all over his body. He couldn't believe it, and he was so upset that I had kept from him that he had a twin brother, and that this was the way that he was to find out. He said it really is the upbringing that changes the person, and that he was sad that his brother had become like this.